Ladies and gents, welcome to Semicolon Code Academy, where we teach you how to code and how to run your own digital agency. So in today's video, I'll be covering some CSS Flexbox, and I'll be taking on a project from Frontend Mentor in which I implement some of those concepts. So if you're interested, do stay tuned, hit the like button, hit the sub button, and let's get into it.
No hate, oh no, we live in life. My squad, we tight, turn up tonight. We fuss, we fight, we make it right.
Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, I think to kick it off, we have to answer the most basic question that people generally have when they are new to a concept, and that is the what. What is Flexbox? Flexbox is a layout model that allows you to design complex page layouts more efficiently and with less code than traditional models. This means that Flexbox is basically was created to address the limitations of previous models that existed, which begs the question, what were those models? Number one, we had the block model, which treated all its elements as block level boxes. Block level elements typically start on a new line and they take up the full width. So a typical example of a block model element will be like a div, a paragraph tag, a h1, and a ul, unordered list element, right? And then we also had the inline model. The inline model formatted all its elements in lines. They only took up as much space in terms of width as necessary, and they do not start on a new line typically, right? So example of a inline model element will be a span tag, an anchor tag, or a strong tag, right? Great, I think that covers the what. So ladies and gents, let's dive straight into a demo of Flexbox, right? So this slide, these two slides basically represent Flexbox. Flexbox aligns items in rows and columns. It's that simple. It's really not that deep. Like, for every implementation of Flexbox, the most important thing to remember is that there's always a flex parent and flex items. In this context, the flex parent is the white box, big white box, and these are the flex items, right? Now, how do you define a element as a flex element? You assign this property of display flex. This basically tells CSS to view this container as a flex container, right? Now, how do you define how things look, and in which way do you want to, like, which direction do you want your things to flow in, right? So you use that flex direction property. By default, it is set to row, so the moment you assign display flex direction row is automatically there. You won't have to type it in. This is just to show you the difference between the two. If you want to align them vertically, you just say flex direction column, and you'll see your items drop in a vertical manner, right? Alignment, to align your stuff, you basically use align items. Align items, you can align them on the flex start, flex end, on the baseline. I think these things are much easier when you actually see things moving, right? But basically, all these properties that you see here, this will be the output. All these properties that you see here, this will be the output. The only difference here is the flex direction, right? Justifying content basically dictates how much space is in between your flex items, right? So you can see here I've said space evenly, so basically I'm spacing all my flex items evenly within my flex container or my flex parent. Pretty simple, pretty easy. I'm itching to get into the challenge, so let's dive into the overview of the challenge. Right, so ladies and gents, diving straight into Frontend Mentor. This is the challenge that we're going to take on. 3-column preview card component. If we just preview it, this is the layout that we're going to be doing. I think it's a pretty good starter project for Flexbox, just to showcase how everything gets aligned and how everything is spaced out. So let me download the project files and we can jump straight into coding. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the challenge. I've downloaded the folder here on my left. It's in my VS Code. So if we just quickly go through the folder structure, they've given us a designs file which basically shows us the design guidelines, and they've given us resources, SVG icons. I'm assuming that is for the actual icons that we're gonna see here. And here on the right, I've basically opened the design and I've already started my live server right here. So first things first, let's dive into the actual design. Just to explain what I'm seeing, I'm seeing a parent element with 3 children, right? The parent itself has a display of flex. The flex direction is a row, and I think everything here is the content is justified evenly, right? So the first thing I'm going to do, going back into my HTML, I'm going to create a parent element, right? And within the parent element, right, I'm going to create child, right? Wait, child, 3 children. So child times 3, that is a shorthand to do it. So a div with 3 divs inside of it, right? So the first thing I want to do is go in and select my parent, right? So let me just go back here. You can see I've already given my body a display of flex, align items centrally, and justify content centrally. So this will basically put my parent element in the middle. So just to visualize it, I'm going to give it a solid border of red. I'm going to give it a min height of 30 VH. Actually, let me go with 60, and a width of, let's say, 60 again. Alright, so that's how it looks. Perfect. Okay, cool. Looking back at our design, so these are our 3 elements. So basically our body or our parent element needs to have a display of flex, right? And remember, we aligned our items centrally, and justified content, we spaced them evenly, right? Great stuff. Now for each of my children elements, right, I'm going to say parent.child. So right, you look at it, all of them have a equal height, so they take up the full height of the parent, right? So height, just to visualize them also, I'm going to give them a solid border and width, let's go 30% maybe. Alright, so here they are, my elements spaced out evenly within this parent element. So display flex, let me give them a proper height so they can be visible, right? So display flex, you can see the red box is my parent element. I've given it a height of 60 VH and a width of 60%. This is all relative to the body element, which has a height of 100 VH and a width of 100%, right? I've told it to be a flex container. So what happens if I remove this, right? I just want to show you. Everything shifts to this little corner here. I forgot the reason why it does that by default, but I think it does the inline model that we talked about, or the block model, one of the two. So I'll just display flex again. So just by saying display flex, you'll see already everything just changes into one row, right? This is what align items does. It puts it in the middle on the cross axis, right? So cross axis is the axis going down. Remember, our direction is on the horizontal side, so it will align things centrally. It will align my items centrally on the vertical axis, since my main container has a flex direction of row, right? And justifying contents will now centrally align everything on the main axis, right? Cool. So I want all my items to take up the whole height of the appearance, and I think 33.3 makes them take up everything, which is not necessarily the best thing to do, because most of the time you're not going to be sitting around calculating everything here. So all I'm going to do here is give them all a even, actually I'm going to keep it justify center. I had it as space evenly before, but I'll keep it as center, right? So now I'm gonna give each child a ID. Just gonna say left, center, and I'll call this one right. Right, this is so I can give them each an individual color, right, which I have declared here. I've declared different colors that are gonna match this design, right? So I want to remove my body or my parents border, right, so you can see all my elements. So if I go left, right, so let's look at the first item. It has a border top left and a border bottom left radius, right? So left radius, I'll go with 10 pixels for now, right? I'll just copy this, paste it, and instead of bottom we're gonna go with the top left, right? We're gonna go with the top left, and we'll do the same thing for the child on the right, except this time we're manipulating the border of the right hand side, the border radius of the right hand side. So if we look now, everything is looking cozy, looking nice. So our left element has a background color. So I've already created my variables that I'm gonna use, and it is orange, right? It's orange. So now I want to start removing the borders so you guys can actually see everything properly, right? I'm using variables to put in my colors. This will be the second blue. It might be a bit lighter actually, so maybe something like that. Yeah, I can't really tell the difference much. And then since that other child doesn't need any special attention, I'm just gonna set it to the default blue, right? So boom, we're already seeing our elements coming nicely, right? So when we look at all our individual elements, everything flows in a sort of column direction. So if we go back to VS Code, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna say all my children must be a flex container, but now the difference is the flex direction must be a column. I'll align my items centrally, and I will justify my content centrally for now, right? So now in order to see that in action, let me actually put in let me go with the span tag, right? Within my span tag, I'm gonna have my images, and I think the first one is a sedan, right? So now you can already see my picture right there. Cool. So now if I go and I say child span, right, border solid, right? So now I can actually dictate everything about that span tag. So I wanted to take up 100% of the width, right, and height 10%, 30%. Let's go with 10, right? My height is 10%, and I also want it to be a flex container. I will align my items centrally, and then I will justify my content flex start. Right, so let me just make this bigger so that I can show you what exactly align items does. So we can align them to the end, right, and it will shift it to the end of the cross axis, right? So remember, the reason why it aligns it down, for example, if I said flex direction column, you'll see that the end of the column is actually at the top, whereas the normal end of the flex direction row is at the bottom, right? Cool. So that's what basically align items does. If I aligned it at the start, it will put it at the start of the cross axis, right? But I want everything to be centrally aligned. Cool. So I've said 10%. Let me actually change my children to justify the content flex start. You will now see everything shift up, right? Everything just shifted up nicely. Cool beans. And yeah, so I can either add padding, right, just so I can have a similar look to this, because I can see there's some padding around here. So I'm gonna say padding on the left. The left doesn't look as much as the right, eh? Or does it? Let me just say padding all around. To rim is a bit wild in my opinion, but yeah, it's looking proper. So I've got this, it's taking up 10%, right? Now I need to add a h1 tag, a heading tag, right? So my h1 tag, am I actually gonna wrap it in something? I might as well wrap it h1, and this one says sedans, right? Sedans. So 1010, right? And then here I'll just have a section with a paragraph tag, right? And I had copied the text that I'm gonna need for this, and I'll put it inside the paragraph tag, right? So now everything is starting to take shape. Cool. That's some nice stuff. So paragraph tag, and lastly we're gonna need to add our button, right? So another, let's say, does it need to be a section? I don't think so. I'll just put the button underneath here. We'll see if it looks good, and we'll title it as learn more. So there we go, we got our basic layout. So it's very simple. If we can perfect it on this one, then it's just a matter of duplicating the elements for the other one. So let's get to actually getting the colors right. So I'll give this span ID of title. Right, cool. So each of my spans has a border. I'll remove that border, and then I will select my title span, right? And I know title has a paragraph tag, right? Cool. So I just want to show you that we've selected the, is it a H1? Yeah, it's a H1. So it has a H1 tag, right? Justify content flex starts, which is fine, perfectly fine. So my H1, all I'm gonna do here is 100%, width 100%, and I'll just copy this, bam bam bam, boom, aligns everything centrally again. And I also want to change the color to white. I think I should really start pre-recording these things, eh? I should really start pre-recording, because it takes a bit longer than I thought, but I think this is a much more genuine way of doing it, you know, not just doing it ahead of time and then, you know, just giving it to you guys. So let's select the section here. So now I want to style my section. Well, not the section itself, but I think it would be a good idea to just give it a good little dunguses. Takes 100%. I want it to take up a bit more height. If it can take up a bit more height, so min height. So I know that both of these take up what, 20%, 20. So I have 60% to play with, right? So it's fine, give it 60%, right? Same thing, display flex, but now instead of justifying the items, firstly the flex direction needs to be column so that everything is in line. I want to align the items not centrally, but I want to align them left. Does that make sense? I think it does. I want to align them left, but I want to justify them centrally. You understand? Center. Cool. So if we look at it now, you can see huge gaps, huge gaps, huge gaps. It's not a bummer. So let me just see. Okay, let me just refactor this code. Flex start was perfect. And what I can basically do is define a gap between the elements by providing a gap property. So now what you'll see is the more I increase the gap, right, let's say 20%, the bigger the space becomes between the two elements, right? So I've already sorted out that spacing issue. Now it's just a matter of selecting the p tag, right? We'll refine everything shortly. We just need to get the basics done. So to display my p tag again, I'll give it a border of solid. I want it to have a width of 100%, right? Give it a width of 100%. So there's my p tag. I don't think I'm going to apply any padding to this container itself, since the main padding is already there and everything seems to be flowing correctly on that left axis. So I'm going to go ahead and give this p tag a bit of height. Let me see something. Choose a sedan. Choose a sedan for its affordability. What text did I copy now? Okay, I think I copied the wrong text there. I'll just copy this sedan text again. Apologies for that. And I'll go in here, remove all of this and paste that correct thingy right there. So let me refactor again. Right, so I'll give it a white color for now. Alright, I'll remove this border and min height of maybe, I don't know, 40%. Doesn't really affect much. But now I want to actually get to styling my button. Right, so okay, all these buttons, right, are white. So firstly, let me give it a height 5 VH, right, and a border radius of, let's go with 10 for now. And actually I see that those ones don't have borders, so I'm going to remove the border, right? And just so everything can start taking shape, I'm going to remove that. And yeah, we're getting there or thereabouts, right? So what we can do is boom boom, so a bit of space there, bit of space there. So the spacing between these two seems pretty decent, right? So dance, choose carefully, learn more. Okay, I need to manipulate the width of the button, right? So give it a width of 40%. 40% is a bit too small. Mate. So maybe 50 might work, right? Excuse me. And then what I'm gonna do is transform the text. I'm just gonna say capitalize, and it's not gonna change because I put everything in caps, right? So learn more. And the background color for this, I think it's transparent. Can they have a transparent color? Or it's actually color transparent. Oh my goodness, wow. What I can do here is, since it's the left, so I can go here and say left, right. And I can go all, and I can say color, right? And I will use that variable that I made right there. There we go. Sorts everything out there. look at it one more time. I've lost my okay, why is that tripping? P tag color white. Okay, this is a bit weird. All right, so we'll get to that in a sec. Actually, no. What I can do is this. Instead of that, I can just say button, right? So that solves that problem. My spacing is a bit off. Maybe this needs a bit of padding. But you know what? Let me get my thing looking like everything else. So parent child left. So boom. And I'm just gonna copy everything in here all the way to the section, and I'm just gonna duplicate. Just gonna duplicate it again, right? So we've got SUVs. So here, sedans. I'm gonna go with SUVs, and instead of that, I'm gonna go with luxury. So now you can see that all my icons have changed. Sedans, we got SUVs and luxury. So all I'm gonna do is change this to SUVs. Does it have that apostrophe? Nope. Just remove that. Change this to luxury. And then each of them have their own special text that I'm gonna get from this notepad. So SUVs has its own text. Luxury has its own text. Right. So we can see that our thing is there or thereabout, man. It's there or thereabout. All right, so we've got everything in place. Everything is in place. I'm just gonna go here, and I'm just gonna go, instead of, I'm gonna go right, and we're gonna make this second blue, right, so that it flows. Code is a bit all over the place right now, but it's not that big of a deal. And this one, what I'm gonna do is bam, same logic, and I'm just gonna copy this, paste it here, and instead of background, I'm gonna say color. There we go. So we've pretty much sorted most of our problems out, right? Now the big bad problem that we have is this space in the middle, right? So how can we actually solve that? So I just want to see the outlining of all my things, so I'm gonna say border solid for all. And if I just magnify this, okay, so maybe that spacing is a bit much right there. So remember, I gave it a gap property, right, of 20%. So what happens if we reduce that gap property a bit more? Reduce the gap property a bit more. So let's go with 10%, right? And now what I can do is, actually I can reduce it a bit more. No, I can't, damn. And also my circles aren't that round. My circles need to be rounder. And this also looks like it's a specific font. Yeah, my fonts are a bit off. So I think for now I'll just play around with the fonts. I don't know, play around with it. Oh, I like that one actually. I actually like this one. It looks dope. And then section p tag. Oh, that looks a bit too thick. So I'll just go with a Arial maybe. Font family. Or maybe just go with the normal sans serif. Right, and font weight, you can just make it light or lighter. Bit of a color dip right there. That is a bit dark. That's a bit dark. Bit too light. Okay, it's there or thereabout. Right, so something has to happen here, right? I think there's some padding involved there. So let's see if we play around with the padding. It did something, didn't do much. Did something, didn't do much. So let's exaggerate it, like exaggerate the padding so that we know what we're working with. No, that looks off. That looks so off. I'm trying to think, how can I okay, actually bit more padding to the left. Okay, add a bit more padding. I don't know, 2.5 rem, SUV, luxury, and maybe we can bring back that margin. And I think we're almost done here, hey? Where's the gap property that we are looking for? Looking for the gap property. Okay, padding right did nothing. And 15%. I mean, it's there or thereabout. It's just the colors that are a bit off, but let's try to get it as perfect as we can here. So give that a bit more Does it have padding? I think it has some padding, but this looks pretty good. I think it's just my fonts, man, that are off, and obviously my color scheme. Speaking of the color scheme, you might as well just play around with it to get it as close as possible. So this blue is a lot more. Is it a lot more greener? Yeah, I think it's a slightly greener blue, and this one slightly lighter. Okay, let's see. Let's see, bruh. So yeah, ladies and gents, aside from the fonts and everything, I pretty much think this is spot on. This is spot on, man. This is spot on. It's there or thereabout. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, it is the festive season. With that being said, I'd like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year ahead. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, hit the subscribe button, and hit the comments if they are active. But anyways, yeah, man, thank you for joining me. Have a good one.